was born and raised in Oklahoma. Okay, we got some. There you go, there you go. There aren't so many Okies. I am the baby. I have three, yes, go for babies. I have three much older brothers. They are to this day referred to as the boys, to distinguish them from the baby who came along. I was what used to be called a late-in-life baby. My mama always just called me a surprise. Now, all three of my older brothers went off and joined the military. They didn't graduate from college. This was their path to America's middle class. My oldest brother, Don Reed, he was career military. He spent about 5.5 years off and on in combat in Vietnam. We were lucky to get him back home. Yes, we were. My brother, John, he spent more than a year stationed overseas. And my brother, David, he trained as a combat medic. Now, yeah, but the consequence of that is that we had to have a rule in our family, and that is never choke in front of David. To this day, he carries a sharpened pocket knife, and he is convinced he could do an emergency tracheotomy. We have some very exciting moments at Thanksgiving in our house. Someone just, and everyone just backs out of the room. But I love my three brothers. They're all retired now. They all live back in Oklahoma, close to each other. I talk to them regularly. When we were growing up, our daddy had a lot of different jobs. He sold fencing. He sold carpets. He sold housewares. He sold paint. And then when I was in middle school, the boys were all gone by then. So it's just my mama, my daddy, and me. And my daddy had a massive heart attack. And we thought we were going to lose him. Now, he pulled through, but the bad news is he couldn't work for a long, long time. And I still remember the day we lost our family station wagon. I remember how my mother used to tuck me into bed at night, and she'd always smile, and she'd pull my blanket up, and she'd give me a kiss, and she'd leave the room, close the door, and I could hear her start to cry. She never wanted to cry in front of me. And this is the time in my life, I'm just a kid. I learned words like mortgage and foreclosure. And one day, I walk into my folks' bedroom, and laid out on the bed is the dress. Now, some of you here will know the dress. It's the one that only comes out for weddings, funerals, and graduations. And I saw the dress, and I looked up and saw my mother. And there she was in her slip and her stocking feet, and she's pacing at the end of the bed. And she's saying, "We will not lose this house. We will not lose this house. We will not lose this house." She was 50 years old. She had never worked outside the home. And she was terrified. And she looked up, and she saw me in the doorway. I'm just a kid. And she doesn't say anything. She just looks at me. And she looks back at that dress. And she looks at me. And she wipes her face, pulls that dress on, puts on her high heels, and walks to the Sears and gets a full-time minimum wage job. That full-time minimum wage job saved our house, and more importantly, it saved our family. You want to know who I am? Here it is. And I thought for many, many years, that's the lesson my mother taught me, is no matter how scared you are, no matter how hard it looks, when it comes down to it, you reach down deep, you find what pull it up, and you take care of the people you love. That's it. And it was years and years later that I came to understand that wasn't just what my mama taught me. That's what millions of people across this country do every day. Every day, no matter how hard it is, no matter how scared they are, they reach down deep, they find what they have to find, they pull it up, and they take care of themselves and the people they love. That's who we are. But it was only years later that I came to understand that same story is a story about government. It's about government. Think of it this way. Back when I was a girl, a full-time minimum wage job in America would support a family of 3. It would pay a mortgage, it would cover the utilities, and it would put food on the table. Today, a full-time minimum wage job in America will not keep a mama and a baby out of poverty. That is wrong, and that is why I am in this fight. And understand this. That difference is no accident. That difference is about who government works for. When I was a girl, the question asked in Washington is, what does it take a family of 3 to survive? What does it take a family of 3 to get a toehold in America's middle class? What does it take a family of 3 to lay down something solid that they can build on? Today, the question asked in Washington is where to set the minimum wage to maximize the profits of giant multinational corporations. Well, I don't want a government that works for giant multinational corporations. I want one that works for our family. So, there it is. So, like I said earlier, the boys, they went off and joined the military. That was their path. Me, I had a different path. I have known what I wanted to be since 2nd grade. Oh, I heard someone laugh. You didn't decide till what, like 4th grade? Not me, man. I have known what I wanted to be since 2nd grade, and I've never wavered off it. I wanted to be a public school teacher. Can we hear it for our up and teach school. Had a reputation for being tough but fair. Problem was, by the time I graduated from high school, my family didn't have the money for college application, much less to send me off to school for 4 years. So, my story, like a lot of American stories, is not quite a straight line. Mine has a lot of twists and turns. So here's how it goes. I got a scholarship to college, debater, yes. And then at 19, I fell in love, got married, and dropped out of school and got a minimum wage job. And not to the guy in the blue shirt. That story is coming. But, you know, it's what I picked. I chose this, I get that. And it's a good life. It could be a good life. It just wasn't my dream. I really wanted to be a teacher. And then I found it. A commuter college, 45 minutes away. We're living down in Texas at this point. And it cost $50 a semester. Yeah. And for a price I could pay for on a part-time waitressing job, I got a chance to finish my 4-year diploma. I became a special needs teacher. I've lived my dream job. part. We're in it all the way. I had 4 to 6-year-olds, special needs. To this day, I can still remember their faces. I love those babies. And I would probably still be doing that work, only my story has a couple of more twists and turns. And the next one was, by the end of the first year, I was visibly pregnant. And the principal did what principals did in those days. Wished me luck and hired someone else for the job. Okay, so here I am. I'm at home, I've got a baby. I can't get a job. What am I going to do? So nobody else is going to hire me. So I decide I'll go to law school. Hey, law school. Ever ask your friends who went to law school how they ended up in law school? But I headed off to law school. By this time, we're living in New Jersey. And I went to a public law school. It cost $450 a semester. Baby on hip, 3 years of law school, graduated visibly pregnant. You will discover a pattern to these stories. And took the bar, practiced law for 45 minutes. And then went back to my first love, which is teaching. I traded little ones for big ones, and I've taught in law school pretty much ever since then. I also, husband number 1, and it's never a good sign when you have to number your husbands. You laugh. But I found husband number 2, and I still got him. Go Bruce! Wherever you are. Yeah, I'm going to be Bruce. Yeah. All right. I taught law school. That's what I've done for all these years. And the thing is, I don't know about other people. But for me, somebody who grows up, always worried about money, man, I taught the money courses. If it was about money, I learned it and I taught it. So I taught contract law and commercial law and secured transactions. I taught corporate finance and partnership finance, and I taught bankruptcy and debtor-creditor law and law and economics. I taught them all. But the basic idea, the one central question that I always worked on was, what's happening to America's middle class? What's happening to working families in this country? Why is our middle class being hollowed out? And why is it for people who work every bit as hard as my mother worked 2 generations ago, today the path is so much steeper and so much rockier. And for people of color, even steeper and even rockier. And the answer is like the answer on minimum wage. It's who government works for. Think of it this way. We have government that works great, works fabulously for giant drug companies, just not for people trying to get a prescription filled. We have a government that works terrifically for people who want to invest in private prisons and private detention centers, just not for the human beings whose lives are torn apart by those institutions. We have a government that works great for giant oil companies that want to drill everywhere, just not for the rest of us who see climate change bearing down upon us. Just not for those who worry about the safety of our children. Here's the deal. When you see a government that works great for those with money and not for everyone else, That is corruption, pure and simple, and you need to call it out for what it is. Corruption. Corruption. And it touches every decision that is made in Washington. Think about it this way. Whatever issue brought you here today, whether it's gun violence, whether it's health care, prescription drugs, criminal justice reform, if there is a decision to be made in Washington, it's been influenced by money. It's been nudged by money. It's been just a little shaped by money, year after year after year after year. In fact, let me tell you a quick story around this. So you go back and look, and in the 1990s, early 90s, we're beginning to get it about climate change. We don't have all the science yet, but we got the basic idea. We're calling it global warming, but we see carbon levels are going up in the air. This is really dangerous. And here's the amazing part. Democrats and Republicans are working together on the issue in Washington. They're talking about what do we need to do? Do we need to expand the Environmental Protection Agency? Do we need to put more money into cleanup, into science? What do we need to do here? And then, along come the Koch brothers. Oh, you've heard of the Koch brothers. Yeah. And the big oil companies and the big polluters. And they get together and basically what they say is, if Congress gets serious about this climate thing, if they actually change the rules, then that's going to cut into our bottom line. We're going to lose money. That's not going to work very well for us. So they've got an investment decision to make. Think about it that way. They could say, we're going to stop doing carbon-based fuels. We're going to invest in green and renewable. No, they don't do that. They don't do that. They could say, we're going to put our money into R&D and we're going to figure out how to clean up the air and how to clean up the what. They don't do that. Now, you know what they invest in? Politicians. They invest in politicians in Washington. And that means they start making the big-time campaign contributions. They hire the lobbyists and the lawyers and the PR firms. They set up the super PACs. They're starting in on all of it. In fact, one part of this, man, you talk about twist the knife. They hire the bought and paid for experts to come in and say, oh, I don't know about climate change. The dinosaurs loved it. It was a great time for salad, whatever. Why do they do that? They don't do that because they really don't understand the science. They do that because those bought and paid for experts, they build an umbrella that politicians can hide under while they keep taking money from the Koch brothers, from the fossil fuel industry, and from the big polluters. You want to understand the climate crisis we face in this country today? It's 25 years of corruption in Washington that caused it.